Welcome to the 4NewMobility talk with Professor Markus Lienkamp from the Technical University of Munich. Before starting with the interview, let us first show you a glimpse of the race 27th April 2024 of the Abu Dhabi Autonomous Racing League.
But it had to dive a little bit later on the brakes. You can see the difference in line as well, a much wider line initially for Unimore.
Yeah, it's a power loss for Unimore, but you got to finish to take the prize.
It's time for the trophy ceremony of the A2RL Abu Dhabi Autonomous Racing League 2024. The trophies being presented by His Highness Sheikh Diab bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan as the trophy is handed over. Congratulations all round as the Yas Marina circuit erupts.
I'm speaking to Professor Markus Lienkamp. He is a professor at the Technical University of Munich. He's there heading the chair of automotive engineering, and he is one of the leaders in the context of research in the field of electromobility, autonomous driving, and I would say mobility in general. So welcome to this talk, Markus.
Yeah, good afternoon.
So Markus, I made a bit of research and I discovered you are doing so many things. I mean, I discovered that you have 500 publications, you have written 5 books, and you have lots of patents. You have made major contributions in the installment of 10 startups. So I just wonder, how does your family deal with all this? I mean, are you from time to time also at home?
Actually, my family at the moment consists of 4 kids who are not living at home anymore. So they are grown up and I have some more time than I used to have. But actually, it's not only a matter of time. If you just consider the overall time I did that, that was a time frame of 30 years. For example, the patents I wrote at Volkswagen. At the TU Munich, I think I didn't have any patent anymore. So we publish a lot and it's not really protected by the patents. The publications, yes, 500 is a lot, but that's already now 15 years of research I did. And I don't write the publications. They are written by my PhD students. I'm certainly a co-author. I've read any of their publications. I've reviewed them. I know what they are doing. But in the end, it's a lot of fun and it's not really so much work.
What recently really excited me was that I learned about you and your team winning the Abu Dhabi Autonomous Racing League. I think it was 27th of April. And I saw the announcement and I saw the whole team so happy, raising their arms. Yeah, you were in the midst of them. And that was also one of the reasons that I really wanted to have this interview. Oh. So can you tell us a bit about this feeling, about this excitement, about this team spirit?
Yeah, the feeling is really outstanding. We had it the first time when we won 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, the Indy Autonomous Challenge on the Indy Motor Speedway in Indianapolis. And the most exciting moment was when we were kissing the bricks. All the winners of the races have the right to kiss the bricks at the finish line. And it was not really the kissing of the bricks, it was the walk to the bricks. And it was the same as excitement in Abu Dhabi when we won the race. And we had to walk for about 1 kilometer to the finish line where the whole celebration took place. And on that way, you start thinking, oh, what have we done? What have we achieved? And it's in the end like a compressed work of a couple of years, what you are acknowledged for. Like in the autonomous challenge, we worked about 3 years for that, with a lot of ups and downs, with a lot of PhD students being involved, a lot of master students involved. And for Abu Dhabi, it was again like 1.5 years of hard work. And in the end, you don't know where you are. The other teams are also very good. They fight for being the winners. And in the end, when you see, okay, you have done a really great job, a bit luck sometimes, but then you win such a big challenge. Like the excitement is really extremely high. And especially for the PhD students, it's like, I'm always telling them, if we participate in such a race and we win, you will tell your grandkids about that race. It's such a highlight you will probably never have in your life again.
And I watched some videos, yeah, which showed the race, yeah, and all the excitement around it. And I was really amazed. I mean, that's absolutely professional, highest standard. I mean, were you also happy about the hosting and everything? Was it very well organized?
Abu Dhabi did a great job. They had a perfect organization. They built up the race cars. They were all identical. So everybody had exactly the same race car, the same computer, the same sensors. We had the same setup for driving dynamics, aerodynamics. So they were really identical, and they built up like 10 cars for the teams. They were always maintained. When we made a crash, which happened sometimes in the testing phase, they repaired it within 2 hours. So it was a great support from the organizer. But it's the same in Indianapolis. We come there, we have the cars prepared, and our job is just to put in the software stick, put on the software, and let the car drive.
And what would you say were the main challenges? Yeah, because I noticed, I think it was a couple of days, yeah, that you had these races, yeah, and the last race I think was decisive for you, where in the last round you overtook another car. I mean, what were the main challenges for you in the context of this event? Mainly in the context of the technical side of the vehicles. Of the vehicle, it was one week, I guess.
Let's start maybe a year before the race. We had a software which was working for the Indy Autonomous Challenge, but we knew that in a year we had to adapt that same software to to another car, other sensors, other car setup, other chassis, and so on. So we decided a year ago to convert the whole code and to abstract it more from the car. So it was not so much deep into the controllers of the car, into the actors of the car, into the sensors of the car. So we had an abstraction layer around the software. And that took us almost half a year to rewrite the whole code. That included also that we had to reorganize the whole controller. That's a major work. And we had a chance to test that in January in Las Vegas at the Indy Autonomous Challenge. And it was working pretty well. So we could get the car running. The new software performed perfectly. And it was a long job to get that done. So we knew in January we had a good basic structure of the software. When we went to Abu Dhabi in March, the main challenge was to set up the car, to shake the car down, to see that all the sensors were working with our software stack. So you have to rewrite some drivers, you had to adapt the new sensors. They had a different field of view, they had a different like laser scanner, different point cloud density, and so on. So we had to adapt the whole sensor set. Next step was, when the sensors were working, we had to address the controllers of the car, the actors of the car. They had a different steering, which was very fast. So we had to slow down the steering. We had to activate the brakes. We installed an ABS system within a couple of days, anti-slip control. So we had to set up new features within a couple of days. And then that was the first chance to get the car running. The next point, which was really concerning us, almost a year ago, we went to Monza, again with the Indy Autonomous Challenge. And before that, we had only ovals. And on the ovals, there was a sky without any obstacles. We had a very good GPS reception. And when we were in Monza a year ago, we had a lot of bridges, we had some trees, and the GPS was not working properly anymore. So without GPS, we had to trust on other sensors, like the laser sensor, camera, and so on. And in Monza, like when we were going through the tunnel, in the beginning, like a year ago, we were just trying to hit the tunnel in the beginning, in the middle, with a heading of 0. And at the end of the tunnel, we were like 1.5 meters off, which was not good. So we didn't really have a good localization. So it took us almost a year or half a year, 9 months to develop a localization based on radar, camera, and LiDAR. And in Abu Dhabi, it was the first time we could try that. We simulated it before on the Monza data, but in Abu Dhabi, we had a new track and new sensors, and we could adapt that within a couple of days so that the localization was running and we knew where we are. And from then on, we could start driving. So that was the big task, like from a year before, that we had to fix our problems in the code. And then we could start testing. We didn't know how the car would perform. We didn't know the limits of the car. And the main problem was that the car tires were unknown. We had a tire map from warm tires. And maybe you know that Formula One tires, they perform best at a temperature of about 90 degrees Celsius. We started with cold tires with 30 degrees Celsius, and we had no idea what the grip was. So we started testing, and Abu Dhabi had a pretty generous rule. They paid for the crashes when we were testing. And I told my team, every day I want to see the car spinning. So we want to know where is the limit of the tire. And we tested that at different tire temperatures. So after a while, after a couple of days, we knew what is the tire map over temperature. And that's what we were installing into the algorithm to say, okay, if the tire temperature is that's the tire limit. And we were driving like lap by lap. And whenever the tire was getting warmer, we were increasing the speed or the lateral and longitudinal acceleration. So that took us quite a while to get the limit of the tire. So then we knew we are pretty fast. We could go more or less to the limit. And what we've learned in Monza, again a year ago, that Polymove was doing laps like, I would say, 2 minutes roughly, or 2 minutes 10 or so. And in the final, they were like 10 seconds faster. And we said, that's impossible. They've never showed it before. And we thought they would take a very high risk by just speeding up so quickly. And it was a surprise for us. And so we just couldn't compensate for that anymore. And then we thought in Abu Dhabi, we will do it differently. We will not show what we are able to do. So in every lap, we had 3 sectors. And we were going in the curves really fast to the limit. And on the straights, we were braking once, taking out speed. And so the sector times were always slow. But if we then we took out in simulation the brake in every sector, and we knew what was our sector time without braking. And if we add the 3 sectors, we knew the time for the lap. And so we had like 10 seconds reserve where the other teams didn't know how fast we really are. So we called it always sandbagging. And so we tried to hide our potential, which worked pretty well, because in the time trial, that was like the last 2 days or the day before the race and the race day, we wanted to show our full potential and we wanted to go to the limit. And we did that. And all of a sudden we ended up, we had in the training, we were at 2 minutes 10, 2 minutes 13 seconds, so far above the 2 minutes. And then in the first time trial, which counted, we were showing the full potential and we went down to 157, 158 with pretty cold tires. And we just flashed the other teams. Nobody expected that from us. But then Polymove, our biggest competitor, they had one race after us and they tried 157. So they were just a bit faster than we were, which was not a catastrophe because it didn't count so much. It was more for showing the potential. And then we knew with a bit warmer tire, and the tires could get warmer in the next races, we could go to a 156. So we had still some potential left. So then everybody was getting nervous, like, oh, what are the other teams doing? What is our potential? Now we have shown what we can do. What is the strategy and the race strategy? And like the day before the race and at the race, it was like a mind game. What will the other teams do? And you talk to the other team leads and you tell them, oh, I will take no risk or I will take a lot of risk. And it's always, you never really show what you can do and what your potential is. And a day before the race, we had the time trial for the final. And we knew that the starting position in the final would be pretty relevant for winning the race. If you're first and the others cannot pass you, yeah, you are likely to win. And passing was still a very high risk. We tried it once and it didn't work, so we crashed. So we knew, oh, passing is risky. So everybody was trying to get to the first position. So going as fast as you can. And we went in the first lap on cold tires. We just had 2 laps on cold tires at 2.3. The other teams were at 2.8. And Polymove, biggest competitor, they spun at the first trial. So they had no lap time. Then we had the second time trial. We had 3 time trials overall, second time trial. The other teams were going. Polymove spun again. No time. And the other team was slower than we were. So, they spun as well. They also had a problem. So we were definitely first with 8 seconds before the next. And then we wanted to do our run. And in the first lap, the computer failed. So we had a breakdown of the computer, which was not our fault. It's from the organizer, the computer. But okay, bad luck. So we've missed that second time trial. So we took the computer out, gave them the computer to repair it. And on the next day, we got the computer back. And then was the third time trial. Polymove was doing a 2 minute lap. Then Unimore was doing a 2 minute 1 lap, so a little bit slower. And we were the third. And we started our time trial. And on the first counting lap, we were at 2 minutes 3 maybe, or 5, doesn't matter. And the second lap, we started, the last sector, the third sector in the first lap, we were faster than Polymove. The first sector in the second lap, we were faster than Polymove. And the second sector in the second lap, we were also faster than Polymove, which means we had already the fastest lap, but just 3, 1, and second sector. And then we just needed the third sector, and we would have been at 1:15 56, 57. So really far below polymorph. And in the third sector, the computer broke down again. So we had no new time, and we were third in the final. And we were totally shocked and said, oh, that's not fair, and impossible, and third in the final, and we were the fastest team, and complaining, and we had a really bad time, and everybody was down. And we knew from the day before that the passing maneuver, or the passing, didn't really work. So we had really problems on the passing. And then we sit together and said, okay, we are third, we have to pass. Otherwise, we will never win the race. So we have to pass two cars. And we knew we were faster than the other cars, so we could catch up. That was not the problem. And there was another feature in the race format. The cars were equipped with a push-to-pass option, where they got 50 horsepower extra. And the first car was not allowed to use that feature. So that means all the other cars could catch up with the first car because they had like 1.5 seconds advantage per lap. So we knew to catch up with the first car over a couple of laps should be possible. But passing was not the issue. And then we looked into the simulation, and I told the team, and the team said, no, passing, we can't do it. It's too risky. It's a too high risk. And I said, no option. I want to see you passing. You find parameters that we are able to pass. And yeah, we could have a crash. I said, listen, I don't care about crashes. It's just relevant if we are guilty or not. If we pass, we have a crash, and we are not guilty, we have won the race. So please just look if we can pass without violating the rules. And then they found the problems. We had in parameters some problems because we assumed too much reserve for the other team. We gave them like a bigger circle of safety than they were allowed due to the racing rules. And then we diminished the circle they were allowed to be, and then it worked. So it was a clear message: if the other teams obey to the rules, we can pass. If they violate the rules, we will have a crash, but we are not guilty. And so in simulation, it looked really good, and we said, okay, let's go for it. We will pass. We will catch the second car. We can pass the first car. We can pass, and we will win the race. Still a high risk, but that was our strategy. So full risk, maximum speed we could get, and passing maneuvers. That was our strategy. And then the race started, and there was some lineup which didn't work properly. So we started, or the race started, and we were 15 seconds behind the first when the race started. And we said, oh gosh, will never work. We have no chance. 15 seconds is a lot. We need like minimum 6 laps to cover for that. And then all of a sudden in the first lap, polymorph spun. And so they had a problem with some brake locking, and they went out, and the race was restarted. And it was restarted, and we were second. And then the lineup was much better. So when the race started, we were just 1 second behind the first. And we were just pushing our speed. We were faster than the first one. And in the 5th turn, I think, we were already in a situation where we could pass. So we had the right of way. And then we don't know exactly what happened. I suspect that they reacted on us, and they somehow had to use an emergency trajectory, and then we could pass. And then we just did one more lap, and we won the race. So it was an up and down. We thought we can never win, and then we thought, we can win. But a lot of emotions, and I think my main role was to motivate the team again and again when they were a bit frustrated.
No, great, Markus. And thank you for telling this story. Yeah? It's really exciting. Yeah? Really exciting. Did you have partners in the preparation and everything? Were there third parties also involved, or was everything done by TUM?
The software was completely done by TUM. I had two other chairs which were involved, the chair of control systems and autonomous vehicle systems. Both of my colleagues, they also sent in some PhD students. We had some companies supporting us, like for hardware in the loop simulations. They provided some hardware, but the whole software was done in our team. It was with about 12 PhD students and a lot of master students.
I can imagine, yeah. But what would be your learnings in the context maybe of autonomous driving in general? I mean, are there some maybe also technical things, yeah, which you learned where you would say this can make a contribution also for autonomous driving in general, or would you say that everything was really focused on this specific case?
I think that's exactly the relevant question. Why are we doing that? Is it just for playing and having fun? Or did we really learn something for applications on public driving? I think what we've learned is a couple of things. First, you need a very robust code, which is running stable. So you have to take care of like run times. You have to know what your processors are able to do. We have a very good software structure. For example, we have like a code with 30 different modules, and each module is encapsulated in a Docker container. So the Docker container is closed. Implemented is there, what kind of software version are you using, like for C++ or Python or whatever. What are the variables you're using? So that you have a very robust module which is not affected by other modules. We had to look about the runtimes. So do we have like a real-time able code which is running within less than 100 milliseconds? So sometimes we chose algorithms which are a little bit less performant, but much more stable. We had to consider the overall runtime of the whole system. So it's a lot of things you learn about the whole system. Second, what we've learned is you need to test. Without testing, just in simulation, you make a lot of mistakes. When you see the problems, you can easily reproduce it in your simulation and fix the problem. But without simulation, you're not able to find the mistake. It's also about data logging, how you handle data you get from testing. So testing is really important. Third point.
That was simulation testing and testing on the
road,
on
the track.
Yeah.
Next point is you have to find the edge cases. You have also always think about the worst. What can happen? And you have to consider all the edge cases, which you sometimes only find when you're testing a lot. And you have to handle them. What we've also done is like we have a high-speed algorithm, and we have some emergency trajectory. So what we are doing is when we are testing, we know exactly where the limit is. And when we reach the limit, we go to a safety emergency trajectory so that the damage of the car is not so high. So when we spin, we don't necessarily have a crash. So we try to avoid the crash, even if tests go wrong. So we can do quick testing. We don't have to repair the car, and it's much cheaper. Another learning is our processes. How do we handle changes? For example, we had a race in Texas where we had a change a day before, and we wanted to implement our winning feature. So we decided to drive slower, and then in the end we would go faster to make it more difficult for the other car to pass. That was in a passing competition. And we implemented that feature. And when the car was running, all of a sudden the car was accelerating like hell. and we had to stop the car. And then we lost the race, of course, because we had to intervene. And we looked into the code, and I think it didn't even take half an hour. And then one student said, my mistake. I didn't convert miles per hour into kilometers per hour. And he was really totally down. And I said, no, listen, it was not just your fault. It was a fault of the whole process. We didn't find the mistake, and we should have found the mistake. So what we've done is we fixed that by implementing really good processes. First one was, when we do code changes, a second person has to double check. So we go through the code, the new code, and a second person is sitting aside and saying, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's okay, next line, next line, next line. So we have a code check. Second, we never do it without simulation. Whenever we implement changes, we have like a background checks that we simulate that the software again. And then usually after the simulation, we are pretty safe that it's working. So that means, and today we are also thinking like a day before or a couple of hours before, are we really going to change the source code? Or maybe we can live with changing parameters, which is much more stable than going to the source code. So we've implemented some more measures to avoid that we make mistakes. Yeah, so there are plenty of points we have learned, and we've taken the whole experience and the software structure, the main structure of the modules and the software code, and we've moved that now to driving on streets. So we've equipped a Volkswagen bus with almost the same system we have in the race car. And last weekend, we were driving that car in the Alps and doing the first tests for driving on public roads.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations. Yeah, good to hear this.
Yeah, today we had a nice article in the Süddeutsche Zeitung, and they were already announcing that we will showcase it on the 25th of September on the Oktoberfest.
Wonderful. I will come. What is your position in the context of coding? Do you use a lot of open source coding, or is it more proprietary, or do you use standards? I mean, what is your approach on this?
From the tools, we are using everything only open source. So we have like Dockers, we are using ROS2 as an operation system. We have C++ open source code, open source compilers. So from the tool chain, everything is open source, what we are using. From our software, which we are producing with those tools, we are putting everything open source again. So that we are trying to contribute to the community as much as possible. And we are in a pretty good collaboration with Autoware. They have open source code for autonomous driving in our driving on public roads. In racing, it's too much different, but on public roads, we can use a lot of their software. We are improving their software, contributing our parts, but we are based on the Autoware stack, giving recommendations, and they take over our recommendations sometimes, so that we are working in an open source community with that software. But on the data, it's the same. We are also trying to put our data open so that everybody can use our data.
I mean, if I understand you correctly with your example with Volkswagen, you're also now supporting OEMs in the context of their journey towards autonomous mobility?
No, the Volkswagen bus is just the bus we've bought, and we've installed the sensors, the actors, together with an engineering service provider. But it's not a project with Volkswagen.
Okay, but you're open for this type of cooperation. So if an OEM comes to you and says, look, we're really excited what you're doing, we would like to work with you, in general, you would be open, or is this something you would not consider?
We are doing that, certainly. We are working together with them. Usually we're telling them what we are doing has to be open source again. So we are not willing to limit our own code or to restrict our own code. So whatever we do in continuous development, in improving, it will always be open source.
Yeah, but I think in general, open source has a lot of advantages. Yeah, I think also in the context of software-defined vehicles. Yeah, I mean, many people say focus should be actually on open source coding. Yeah, so I'm a big believer in this. Yeah,
and it has another big advantage. We don't run into a problem that people think we are doing code which is ethically not acceptable. Everybody can look into our code and can see if we are giving like advantage to the own vehicle or if we are distributing the risk in a fair way.
I understand. Yeah, I mean, now you gave already quite a bit of advice also in the context of what could be improved with respect to technology, autonomous vehicle. Is there something going beyond which you already told us, where you would say to the OEMs, look, I mean, this is a very crucial but also very challenging topic which needs to be resolved, which needs maybe even more focus?
It's more on the organizational side. What we are telling them all the time is you have to work together. It doesn't work if you want to do it alone. Look at the moment worldwide, what's going on. The only functioning software stack is from Waymo at the moment for level 5 robo-taxi driver. All the other companies couldn't realize it so far with billions of investment. A lot of them just went out of business. No OEM is at the moment able to provide robo-taxi software. If they don't work together, no one of them will succeed.
And when you now talk about working together, I mean, you think that there's more in need of an ecosystem, and who should be in the ecosystem? I don't want to hear now some companies, yeah, but what is part of this value chain where you would say they have to be part of such an ecosystem so that we move faster on the road towards autonomous mobility? I mean, do you have some advice on this?
Yeah, part of the ecosystem is definitely the whole world of the suppliers. Like they come with their sensor, like a LiDAR sensor, and they want to know if it would work in the context of autonomous driving. So they go to an OEM, give him the LiDAR sensor, and the OEM is not really saying exactly what he's doing. And after 2 years, he's telling the supplier, it doesn't work. You have a problem there or there. If the supplier would have the chance to implement his sensor directly into an open source software stack, he could see within a couple of weeks what the problem is in the whole software chain and not just focusing on his little part. Because normally the OEM is doing the whole software and is specifying exactly what sensor has to do, the actor has to do, everything has to do. And in my opinion, the company itself, the supplier itself has to be able to check his part in the whole ecosystem. Second is we need all the tool suppliers in who are doing the tools for programming, middleware, simulation, and so on. We need also the hardware suppliers in for the compute platform. So it has to be like an abstraction layer between the hardware, the compute platform, and the operation system. We need in data experts who are collecting data or annotating data, labeling data. We need in the universities, they have to be able to do research without any restriction. That was the reason we were building the Volkswagen bus, to be able to have free access to all the interfaces and to publish whatever we want and not being restricted by any OEM who's telling us, oh, this CAN bus protocol you cannot publish, or those data, no, they're confidential. You cannot make any progress with limited access. So I think it's a lot we need for the ecosystem.
And do you think that we also need partners which are now outside the, let's say, the very narrow OEM and supplier space? I mean, I'm talking now about, for instance, the telecoms, yeah, the infrastructure suppliers. Do we have to go beyond, or is it good first to focus really on the vehicle and there the value chain, or should we go beyond?
I would say the main problem at the moment is on the software stack. We have to solve a lot of problems to get a good software stack running. But when you have solved that, you come immediately to the other partners, like you need street approval, so you have to get involved the TÜV, for example, or other authorities. You have to clarify the legal side, which is in Germany now pretty good, regulated. We need the telecom for providing like telecommunication access to the car in case of a breakdown. So you need also like the cities who have to allow for that. They have to involve their people to get acceptance of the whole mobility system. It doesn't help us if nobody wants to use such a car because it's considered to be unsafe or whatever. So you come step by step to a lot of more partners. And we've seen that now for the Oktoberfest shuttle. We had to talk to the fire department. We had to talk to police department, to the city of Munich, to a lot of people to get that running and to get it approved.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think is the importance of cybersecurity? Will this be a major topic? Yeah, because I could also imagine in the context of what you said, we need more integration of all these ECUs, et cetera, in the car in the future. We will have over-the-air updates and so on. So I could imagine that cybersecurity becomes more challenging, but in the context then of automated driving, it will be much, much more important.
Of course, with autonomous driving, some bad people could hack the car and just operate it. This has to be avoided in any case. And that's definitely part of cybersecurity.
What is your view concerning the time which is still needed so that we have fully automated vehicles, level 4, 5, on the roads, not only on motorways, but all in the cities? What would you see as the time perspective? And what would you, if I would now tell you, please give me only one challenge, if I forced you to do this, yeah, what would you see as the major one challenge, the major maybe one barrier which has to be solved?
First part of the question, it's realized today. Waymo is driving in the US and in China the same. So the challenge is at the moment on the side of Germany or the European Union that we don't have companies who are able to provide this technology. Yeah, what is the one thing? I split it. It's definitely cooperation. We need more cooperation. And it's in the end money.
Okay, understood. You already explained the issue concerning cooperation in the ecosystem. Yeah, so thank you for this. And I think proper financing is an obvious topic. Yeah, so I fully agree.
In the end, it's a bit of grit. You need some years of endurance. You cannot just stop every year and redecide every year. Google put in billions of dollars per year to get it ready. And we cannot expect that we get it for a couple of $100 million in 2 years ready. So it's a bigger task.
I fully agree with you. But I mean, it's always good to have tasks and challenges. Yeah. So Markus, thank you very, very much for this very interesting and in some parts even exciting interview. Thank you very much that you took us a bit on the journey concerning the Abu Dhabi race, yeah, that you gave us some insights in the context of the learnings, yeah, which you have also for the automotive industry, and that you gave us also a bit of an outlook, yeah, what is coming next with respect to autonomous mobility. And what I take with me, yeah, it's always good to take one thing at least for sure with me, and that is that there is a need for an ecosystem, that there's a need for more cooperation to succeed together. Yeah, and maybe we all should learn from this. So thank you very much, Markus, yeah, for this interview, and I wish you a good continuation of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Hermann. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.